Today's topic is API automation with REST assured. So, what is API? API basically stands for Application Programming Interface. It acts as a link between database and user interface, which is the front end, and it is a very important part of modern software development. It helps us to exchange data and for the different softwares to work together. Now, some of the common examples of API which we see in our daily lives are social media sharing. So, whenever we share anything on Facebook, it is the API which is working in the backend, which helps us to share data. Or, for example, in travel bookings, there are different sites which give us data about different flights and different hotels. It retrieves data from different websites and give us together at one place. So for fetching data from different website, it is the API which works. And then stock market data, there are various website which keeps on updating the stock prices. That is also API working behind the scenes. And then one of the interesting application of API is IoT. So any smart devices which we have at our home, like Alexa or something, it is connected through our mobile app using API. Also, the weather app which we have on our phone, that also updates the continuous weather and the temperature using API. It fetches the data from different sites and different places using API. Let's understand the architecture of API, how API works. So whenever user uh, uh, enters any information that they want, if I want to search something on any website or perform any transaction, we send a data request to the we click on the button, search button, and then it travels through the internet. And then API acts as a bridge, and the API comes into play and acts as a bridge to receive requests from the browser. It understands what data we are asking and it communicates to the server. The server then communicates to the database, and database has all the business logic, etc. It does the it goes through our request and then gives us the data. It gives the data to the server, and then through API it goes back to the internet. Then it goes back to the web app or browser in JSON or XML format, and that is how then again it is converted, and that is how our data which we receive can be seen. For example, any search or any transaction which we see, this is the basic working. It might be little different, more things can be added, but this is the basic architecture of API request. And next is status code. So status code is basically a 3-digit number which we get after we hit any API request. So there are various uh, forms in which we get the response. So for example, if we get the status code starting with 1, it is informational. If it starts with 2, it is success message. If it starts with 3, it is redirection. From 4, it is client error. And from if it starts with 5, it is server error. Some of the common status code which we see while working are 200 response code, which is a success code. Then 300, which is redirection. 404, which is the page not found, which we get. And then related to 500, in which it is the error from server side. Why status codes are important? Because it helps to access, it is very vital for web developer and administrators to see where the request is going wrong. If we face any error, for example, if the error starts with 500, then the developer will not go into client error or redirection or all those things. It will directly look into they will directly see if there's something wrong with the server. So it saves a lot of time with the status code. Now, there are different types of requests. The main types of requests are get, post, patch, put, and delete. Now, if we consider our active collab, which we use, in that we retrieve any task from the server, which is through a get request. So the server responds with a list of tasks which client has, and it displays to the user. And post is basically to create a new task. So whenever any new task is created or any new object is created, any new resource is created, it is the post request which is sent. Next is next is patch. If user wants to update only a description of existing task, it doesn't create a new task in itself, but only to update an existing thing, we use patch. And then put is, suppose if user wants to edit an existing task, then we use put, and delete is to delete a task. So these are the requests basically mostly which we use. Now, for when in automation, we use REST assured. So it is a simple Java library which can be used to automate RESTful services, RESTful API services. And it is very easy to integrate it with existing Java frameworks in which we use TestNG and Selenium WebDriver. And REST assured has various features. It supports all the HTTP methods which we discussed just now. It supports the BDD syntax, which is given when then. It is easy to read for non-technical people also. We'll see about it in upcoming slide. And then it uses Hamcrest matches for check. So it basically helps in the assertion or to check or validate the response which we get. And then gpath for selecting element from JSON response. Since the response body is very long, we can select on which parameter we want to perform assertion on using JSON path or gpath. Now, why we use REST assured? It is because open source library, which basically means it is free, and it supports all the most of the methods of HTTP, and it is comparatively easier to code it in Java using basic Java code, and it helps in the uh, uh, like backend automation also. For example, I'll tell an application with where we can use REST assured in automation where we use. So suppose if I'm running an automation script in which a user has to be created every time I run my script. So if I run my script 2 times a day, 2 users will be created per day. So if I run it for 10 days, there will be 20 users created. Now I can write an automation code where in front end it clicks on delete button and deletes the user. But if suppose the site doesn't load or something goes wrong, if the button is not displayed, it will not delete the user. So there I can write a code API request, it will delete the user from backend. So that is more reliable. Similarly, we can create a user also using post request. So that is how REST assured can be integrated with our front end code, and it is more reliable and the code is more stable. So the advantages of REST assured is it is open source, which basically means it is free and it is easy to use. It requires less code as compared to Apache HTTP client, which we used to use before. And the response is in JSON format, which is comparatively easier to parse and validate. And it can also be integrated with Maven or CI/CD tool. The disadvantages of REST assured is it cannot be used to test SOAP APIs explicitly, but SOAP APIs are generally not used nowadays for developing most of the software. And then there is no inbuilt reporting for REST assured, so we have to write a little extra code for extend report and to generate the report for this. Now, this is the BDD syntax, which I was saying. So there are three more main components in this. It is given, after which we mention all the given data like base URI, username, authentication, cookies, etc. Then comes when, that after which we mention the action which needs to be taken. So the type of request will come after when. And after then, we can save the response or whatever data we want. After then, we can perform the assertion on the response. Now, one of the uh, uh, concept which REST assured uses is method chaining. If you see the second code, REST request specification is an interface, and most of the method which it has returns a object of the same class. So instead of writing the code which is in second snapshot, we can easily write the code in the first snapshot which is given. It is called method chaining. So we don't have to assign the object again and again. we have to just write the code in one go, rest assured dot given dot accept, because it all returns the same object. So the code is much cleaner and easier to understand also. Now, this is the basic request, a very simple request. First, we write given and then the content type, which is application JSON, then authentication, then dot basic method in which we give username and password. And then we give something after when, that is get URL, what action we need it to perform. And after that comes dot then, after which we write the assertion which we want to perform on the response. Now, how do we set up the rest assured in Eclipse? So first is the basic setup, which is download and install Java JDK, then set environment path to JDK, download Eclipse. And then if we want, we have to put basic Selenium dependencies. And for rest assured, only one dependency is needed, which is this one. We just have to write this much and build the project, and rest assured is installed in your system. Now, there's a small demo which I've prepared. So in this request, basically, I have given a post request in which place ID is extracted, and then a put request, okay, in which it is updated, and then it verifies the update and does the assertion. So here it is running the script. Now here you can see that it is showing successfully added. The assertion is done on 200 OK, which is the status code. So if it would not be 200 OK, the test cases would fail. And here it has passed. And that is the test ng thing which is there. And in that also it is showing it is passed. It is a very simple request. So in this also, I have put some assertion here. The status code it would verify, and in the body it would check for the scope parameter, and it should equal to app. And then in the header it would check that the server parameter has this value, and it would extract the response and store it as a string. Okay, here I have failed it deliberately to show how it works. So this is the response which we get. Now here the assertion is failing because here I have put assertion that it should be 2.4.18, but it is currently 2.452. So this is how, if anything is not up to the mark or anything is not as expected, we can find out where the API is not working. And that is how we track any bugs or anything that we have. Thank you everyone for joining.